All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to go back in time, way back to 1872, to look at these really fiery lectures from a young Friedrich Nietzsche. And get this, he was only 27 years old, but he basically called out a crisis in education that sounds like it could have been written this morning. It's kind of wild.
I mean, really think about it for a second. What is university for? Is it just a pipeline to a good job, to make a good living? Or is it supposed to be something bigger, something that actually shapes us as human beings? This whole debate feels so incredibly current, doesn't it? You hear it everywhere, on the news, at the dinner table, you name it.
Well, it turns out this question is anything but new. Over 150 years ago, this young professor in Switzerland, Friedrich Nietzsche, he gets up in front of a crowd and basically says the soul of education is on the line. And the crazy part is, he was already completely fed up with the whole academic world, even though he was a star in it.
And he wasn't just, complaining about homework or class schedules. Nietzsche saw himself as more of a cultural doctor. He was diagnosing a deep sickness in the German education system, which, by the way, was seen as the best on the planet back then. He was convinced it was completely losing its way, forgetting what it was all about in the first place. So what was that purpose? Well, it all comes down to this really powerful German word, Bildung. Now, this isn't just education or job training, it's so much more. Think of it as the complete shaping of a person, their whole intellectual and moral self. It's about becoming a complete human being, not just a cog in the economic machine. And for Nietzsche, that was the very thing that was disappearing. So what was his diagnosis exactly? Well, hold on, because it was pretty radical. He basically argued that this entire massive educational machine, every school, every teacher, every student, was all a front. That its real unspoken purpose was just to pave the way for a handful of true geniuses to rise up. I mean, it's a super elitist, shocking thing to say, right? But that was the point. He wanted to force people to completely rethink the whole system. All right, so how exactly was this idea of building being destroyed? Nietzsche pointed to two big problems, what he called equally ruinous tendencies. And what's interesting is that at first glance, they look like complete opposites. But he said, nope, they're actually partners in crime, working together to just crush real learning. So let's break this down. On one side, you've got this push to widen education, spread it out, make it for everyone. The formula here is purely economic. More education means more stuff gets made, which means everyone's happier. It basically mints people like coins, current and easy to spend. Then, on the other side, you have the total opposite, the push to narrow education. We're talking hyper-specialization. He compared scholars to factory workers who spend their whole lives making just one tiny screw. And here's the kicker. Nietzsche said both of these trends weren't serving culture. They were serving something else entirely. So, what was this something else? Who was the real master here? For Nietzsche, the answer was clear. The state. Specifically, the brand new German state. He saw it figuring out that the entire school system could be a fantastically powerful tool for its own purposes. Yeah, his argument was essentially that the state had hijacked education, just straight up co-opted the whole thing. It stopped being about Bildung and started being about churning out useful, obedient people to run the bureaucracy and fight the wars. The state, he said, had made itself the ultimate authority on what culture should be. And he laid out exactly how it was happening. It was a pretty clever and cynical plan. Step one, you make it so all the best jobs, all the prestigious government positions require a diploma from your state-run high schools. Step two, you throw in some juicy perks like better treatment in the military for anyone who plays along and gets that diploma. And what's the result? Boom, the state is in complete control. Education is now just a tool, a means to an end for the state. Okay, so this is where things get, honestly, a little bit spooky. Because when you really listen to Nietzsche's complaints from the 1870s, they sound like they could be pulled from a headline today. Just listen to how he described the mindset that was taking over. He said it was a culture that hated any kind of education that took too much time or didn't lead directly to a paycheck. If you couldn't cash it in, it was considered a waste of time. I mean, does that ring any bells? Okay, now fast forward. This next quote is not from 1872. It's from a Harvard report from 2013. And it basically says that for an academic subject to get any real support, it has to be about money, it has to attract research money, or it has to promise its graduates will make a lot of money. It's the exact same logic. The parallel is just stunning.
So think about that. For more than 150 years, we've been stuck in the exact same debate. Sure, the words we use are different, the universities are way bigger, but that fundamental tug of war between education for personal growth and education for a paycheck, it hasn't changed one bit.
And that brings us to the final, really crucial question that Nietzsche's work forces us to ask. What if all this modern anxiety, the whole crisis in the humanities, the debate about the purpose of college, what if it's not new at all? What if we're not dealing with a modern problem, but just seeing the final stages of a disease that was diagnosed 150 years ago? It's a really heavy thought, and it kind of changes how you look at everything, doesn't it?